I am the oldest grandchild in a large Irish Catholic family. My dad is the oldest of 6 children. My mom is the oldest of 9 children. And I am the oldest of a large Irish Catholic family, lots of grandchildren, and that's just on my mom's side of the family. My grandparents were incredible community organizers. They walked on the planet with a kind of devotional faith. They were committed to bringing human beings together in service of something. In 1968, my grandmother, having had 9 children in 11 years, went to her gynecologist and said, "Doctor, I'm here for a vasectomy." He paused and then he chuckled and he said, "Terry, I think I can help you, but it won't be with a vasectomy." In 1968, an Irish Catholic mother who had 9 children making a clear and bold request for birth control was radical. In 1972, that December, my aunt was getting married. My grandmother halted all of the wedding festivities, insisted that everybody sit down, nothing move forward, until everybody wrote letters of opposition to President Nixon in the wake of the bombings at Hanoi. We're in the midst of the Vietnam War. Her faith was a kind of devotional activity. She believed in this guy, Jesus. She really believed in him, but she was confronted by the position of the church. Her faith was a kind of political experience, a lived experience. Several years later, my grandfather retired, and in 1987, my grandparents realized that they needed to move to Los Angeles, California. Their oldest son was dying of AIDS. And there was nowhere else that my grandmother knew to be. I remember very vividly that December, my family went to visit. I was 9 years old. I remember crawling in bed with my uncle, lesions all over his body. Not a word spoken between us. And the gravitas of the circumstance was palpable. My grandmother was deeply confronted by the experience she had from her church community. Her son's personhood was challenged. My grandmother felt that people must not have known what this man named Jesus was all about. A few years later, in 1992, I was 13. My mom ended her marriage with my dad after 22 years. She revealed that she was having a relationship with a woman in the neighboring town. I will tell you, in 1992, that was a little scandalous. She was not met with open arms. My best friend was no longer allowed to sleep at my house. The social clubs my mom once enjoyed were no longer welcoming. And the church didn't really have a place for her. I was 13 when I left the church. It was clear that I did not belong. It was clear that my mom did not belong. And so I started looking. I started trying to make sense of this thing called life. I began voraciously reading sacred texts. I began going down holes of philosophy. I became exposed to Black liberation texts, and my mind was blown open. When I was 18, I had my first child. By 22, I was the young mother of 2 children. I was experiencing the challenges of career, of parenthood, of mounting student loans, and I was trying to find my place. I was looking for a sense of belonging. What I was looking for didn't seem to exist. See, that once large Irish Catholic family was now Black, was now Jewish, was now queer, was now atheist. I had to find a place and space where all of my family could be welcomed. A place like that did not exist. In 2015, I became an ordained minister in ancient wisdom and New Thought teachings. I was surrounded that day of my installation by spiritual leaders, by community organizers, by atheists, by agnostics. The community that I longed for was beginning to emerge. What I know is that community matters. What I knew was that if I was looking for something, there had to be others that were looking for it too. And so I began to create the thing I wanted. See, 4 out of 10 18 to 29-year-olds now identify as religiously unaffiliated. 6 out of 10 LGBTQ 18 to 29-year-olds identify as religiously unaffiliated. Over 45% of Americans now identify as spiritual but not religious or of no affiliation. These numbers are growing. More than 3,500 Christian churches close each year. Over 70% of non-Orthodox Jews now marry outside of their faith tradition. I wanted a community that could meet me in a time that I needed. I have created, alongside incredible human beings, a multiracial, intergenerational, queer-affirming, non-religious, pro-woman community in the most segregated city in America, Chicago. I work with incredible human beings every day. A few years ago, Jay started showing up. Jay was looking for community but didn't want traditional religious constructs. Jay was estranged from their family. They had struggled with long-term reliable employment. They were challenged with bipolar disorder, and they were trying to make meaning of this thing called life. Jay started taking classes, attending workshops, volunteering, and engaging in a kind of spiritual counseling that affirmed their very being. Jay's life is thriving. They are now working in a role where they get to empower other human beings, that they get to support people in finding their purpose, their passion. Jay was looking for community, and a community existed. Life continues to happen. Babies continue to be born. Marriages continue to manifest. People continue to die. Chris and Lisa started showing up because they wanted to be a part of a new paradigm. Lisa didn't want the patriarchal religion of her childhood. She wanted to raise her kids in a kind of radical inclusivity that brought people together throughout the city of Chicago that may not otherwise meet. In a few months, I get to do a baby blessing with their twins. People are seeking community because community matters. What I know is that when we confront our tribal agreements, when we begin to identify systems that separate us, we start to experience unexpected encounters and we have access to our shared humanity. It is the deepest kind of healing I know. See, community can provide a salve to the soul. We've seen innovation in every industry. We're exploring artificial intelligence, robotics, flying cars, immunotherapy. Religious constructs haven't shifted in the last 1,000 to 2,000 years. But it's not because there isn't something wanted. See, something is wanted. Something is longed for. Shared humanity is felt. The power of community is palpable. To transcend tribalism is what will heal the consciousness of humanity at this time in history. The need and the desire for community has not changed. Community must evolve. The longing will never be eliminated. Thank you.